Welcome to Backstage 421, the musicians only podcast, with your host, author, and music lover, Charles Campbell. Charles will have an awesome array of guests from many genres of music, so sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. By the way, Ray Mattis is the composer of this awesome intro music.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Backstage 421. I'm your host, small town horror author Charles Campbell, and today I have a very special guest. He is an artist from around my parts, and he's more than an artist. He's also an author, and he has a brand new book series coming out. The book series is called "Sorry We Missed Your Call." But the first book in the series is called Glam Rock, and it's 200 pages of glam rock and roll love, is how it's described. So, welcome to the show today, John Stoney Cannon.
Oh, thank you. And how are you doing?
I'm doing good, man. Doing good. About to release a new book myself, so exciting times. Exciting times for sure.
You are a thoroughbred when it comes to writing books.
Well, I try.
How do you find the time?
I just write at night. I have a day job, but write at night. Don't get much sleep. Well, John, I've known you for a couple of years. You did I was at a book signing with you a couple of years back at Gransky Records for Hooked on a Feeling.
No.
That was an amazing book. You guys put that out there. But what I'd like for you to do before we get into the questions and answers is give my listening audience a little background on yourself. Talk about, your art and talk about your love for music, and then we'll get into a conversation.
All right. Well, I like to tell everybody that I kind of lucked out. My dad was from Mississippi, went to the Army, went to Italy, met my mom. So I got this good cross mix of pop culture from the start, which also helped me since she was learning English. I learned to read by the time I was 4. And so second grade, I was reading, Isaac Asimov, which is funny because now I'm not really a fiction reader.
Right.
But being an only child, maybe because, it was just the three of us and I'd go to the library and come home. So maybe, when you're kind of stuck in your room, so now it's biographies for me. But occasionally I will have a reason. I will find a book that I go, I can handle that. So like somebody once recently gave me a book that I did some cover art for. And I looked at it and I said, that's within my realm of space that I can read that. Because I'm usually a toilet reader. I put the books in the restroom and read like a few pages at a time. And 6 months later, I'm on to the next book. So, but yeah, growing up in that atmosphere all over the world, music, drawing, doing the only child thing, getting in a lot of trouble. But I guess because of that, I have a pretty wide range of things I love. A lot of people like particular music and, everything and I'm kind of like, no, everything.
Yeah.
So, and I think the funny thing is what we have in common is, the writing part aside, because you are a writer, my friend, you are a monster when it comes, literally monster, right? But we love horror, which that came to me at a young age, hiding underneath the covers with the little TV for the Late movie. We both love music and we both love wrestling.
Yeah, that's right.
So if that's not a wide spectrum, there you go. If that's not a wide spectrum of pop culture stuff, and we both love football.
That's right.
So,
lots of things in common.
Manly men's kind of stuff.
Yeah, manly men's kind of stuff.
So.
Well, I can attest to your, your diversity in music. I enjoyed the. I'm not sure what you called it, but you called it. You were spinning your entire record collection, and you make posts on Facebook. Before we get into the book, tell me a little bit about that. What made you want to do that? Because I found it very interesting. You own a ton of vinyl, and so I saw you posting, basically every day, about what record you're spinning. So what got you into that? What made you want to do that and share it with the world on Facebook? I thought that was really interesting, and I thought it was kind of cool.
Well, it wasn't so much a sheer thing as I go out of town, and the first thing I look for is things I look for is a coffee shop and a record store.
Hmm.
And I love to dig through the used stuff because my treasures are the things that other people think is just crap.
Right.
You know what I mean? I like unusual stuff. Sean Cassidy, give it to me, right? And so we were doing something, and my wife Leslie said, "What do you need more records for? You're never going to listen to them all." And I'm like, "Uh huh." And she's like, "No, you're not." "Uh huh." And she's like, "Prove it."
Uh,
So I decided on the first of the year I would go because all of these are in alphabetical order. All the ones under the console are everything's in alphabetical order. So these are like all the the rock pop group records, and and they go across the top, and then you have all the compilations that are over there, and then there's another room with records and stuff. So I said, okay, I'm going to start at the beginning of the year, and I'm going to play them in order, which some days meant playing several and some days meant playing none. And just like when people decide to lose weight, and they decide they're going to be honest with it, and they're going to put it out there and hold themselves to task. I said, well, the only way I can hold myself to task is if I put it out there and put the records out there. And I was already in this thing where I like to take pictures of anniversary records with my coffee,
yeah.
and post pictures like that. So I was like, okay, well, I can't do that for a while. And I just went, I think it took me over a year and a half to play all my records.
Well,
So,
I look forward to those posts. I was thinking, well, what is he going to play today? And I kind of search it out sometimes. You have a nice collection, my friend. I will tell you that.
yeah,
And
the fun parts were, of course, playing these were the easy. This is the easy stuff because
right,
that's the pop stuff, the rock and roll, the heavy metal and stuff. What was fun was when it got down to weird classical music, jazz, like 1970s and 80s, like comedy. And
yeah,
then I have all these like German records because I lived in Germany, and these Italian like drinking records, which that was unusual. The one was fun because it was a German military record. And while the songs were playing, there was a guy the whole time going, and back in 1957, and I'm in the other room going, oh, I'm going to get a history lesson this time. So,
hey, bonus. That's cool, man. Um, so we'll fast forward a little bit and let's get on topic of glam rock. I know you did the Hooked on a Feeling a couple years ago. I enjoyed that. Read it from cover to cover. Had all kinds of cool stuff in it. Yep, there you go. I think you can still pick it up at m66.com if I'm not mistaken.
yeah, and I think they still have copies at a couple of our favorite places like Gransky's
Hmm.
and the Book Tavern. So, and this was fun because I did it during the pandemic, and I waited till the last minute. We had Francie and I had scheduled to release it in May, and in January I realized I hadn't started, and I did all the writing and did all the setup. Everything had to be PDF because there's so many graphics in it.
Yeah,
But I have to say, the writing, everybody goes, "Oh my God!" The writing was the easy part.
yeah,
Getting the pictures from Francie was the easy part. I would have to say Francie did the hard work because she edited and read every page of this book before it was finalized and
yeah.
uploaded, and then she kept sending it back. So I think really she did most of the hard work because she was trying to do what Francie does in between too.
Right. Well, Francie does a lot. She's done one of my book covers as well, and she did a great job on that book too. All the cover art looked really on point, fantastic. You got a couple of commissions from her too on the wall back here, and I got one from you over there.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, yeah. Well, I don't think I commissioned it. I think I saw it on Facebook, and I said, "How much do you want for that?" And it's the Jen Wigmore picture. Uh,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
yeah, it's hanging on the wall over
Well,
here.
it was funny with that picture. and it might have been you that posted something,
I'm sure it was. I
but
post about her every day.
but I was drawn to something, and I because I always like when I was a kid, I always looked for new music, and I would say about 80% of the time I listen, go, right, but I always look, and I saw her in a live picture, like at the worst you can possibly look, dripping wet with sweat, makeup smearing, and I'm thinking, oh my god, what is this, like an old punk rock band, right? And I went and I said, well, let me look this up. And I was like, this is pretty cool. And I got this vibe. You know, sometimes when you get a vibe that you just want to try to recreate the vibe. And I got this weird vibe from it. And I was like, how do I want to do it? And I couldn't decide whether to do the picture, one of the two pictures. So I put them together. I put her on her own t-shirt. And I
Yeah,
kind of got the feeling that you know it's a rule. You don't wear your own t-shirt unless you're a wrestler, right?
that's right.
And I
That's in their
kind of got the
contract.
I kind of got the feeling that she's pretty punk rock. She probably wouldn't wear her own t-shirt, but at the same time, she'd probably go, "You tell me I can't wear my own t-shirt," and then she'd probably do it anyway. So,
Yeah, if you look her up, some of her live stuff, she wears all kinds of cool shirts. So like the Misfits, she's got a whole bunch of stuff. So yeah, I know. I think she's pretty rad, and she was on the podcast a couple years ago, and I'll fanboy over her if you give me the chance. So don't give me the chance. Um, Now let's talk about Glam Rock. What I feel like it's maybe kind of a continuation of Hooked on a Feeling in some way, shape, or form. But this is a new thing, and it's part of a series called "Sorry We Missed Your Call." So, tell me how you came up with that concept, that idea, and what started the ball rolling on this book that's coming out in June 28th. Is that correct?
28th. That's correct.
28th. Okay.
Well,
Uh,
I kind you know, writing "Hooked on a Feeling" was a very very busy because I did it. I slacked. You know what I mean? And so I kind of like decided that I wanted to do something else. I didn't know what I wanted to do. And then somebody I know who I'm talking to right now, just they're always posting, "Hey, I'm writing a book right now, but it's on pre-order as I write it." And I'm like, "Well, that could be fun. That would kind of put you at task if you're got it on pre-order and people are pre-ordering it. You kind of can't turn around and go backwards. You kind of
that's
finish it,
true.
right?" So So I was like, let me try that. And I have to say, while you do a good job of it, I'm never going to do it again. Not that way. No. So, but
Well, the difference, I think, and I don't mean to cut you off, is I didn't always do it that way. I got a pretty good local reader base. As soon as I put a pre-order out there, then they're on it. So that's the only reason I do it, because I know I have a certain amount of people that are going to go ahead and click the pre-order button. So it's nothing. It's not magic or anything. It's just I have a little following that pre-orders everything I put out. If they weren't doing that, I wouldn't be doing it either.
yeah, yeah. I would say the next time I will probably finish the job and then announce a release date. Just because
Yeah.
I'm not really in a hurry, but I've the last one, Francie tackled most of the work as far as getting the book published and all that. So I decided I was going to do it. And for some reason, when I do something, the first time is never the easy way. My wife will tell you that. I can't just sit back and do it and go, okay. So, needless to say, my final edit, I ordered books and then realized I had a typo and canceled my order. And then went through and read the whole thing again and said, oh, that wasn't that big of a deal. And then went through the whole process again. So, but where the idea for "Sorry We Missed Your Call" came from is I'm like a lot of people, I'm in several private Facebook groups. And one of them is a glam rock group. And I joined kind of apprehensively because a lot of times in glam rock, as being, I also write for Sleaze Rocks, which is a Canadian a Canadian site. And a lot of times I would do reviews And the guy that runs the thing would go, I'm not sure if our readers will like this. And I'm like, okay, your readers have to realize that David Bowie is as important to Motley Crue and LA Guns. Without David Bowie, there'd be no Motley Crue or LA Guns. So me doing a review, and I chipped away at him to the point that one day I was on there and he posted news about Mott the Hoople. And I had to hit him up and go, aha, see, you learned a lesson. So
Nice.
I was kind of, a lot of times you get the, I wish so and so would put out a new album. And when they do, it's like, oh, it sucks. It doesn't sound like such and such from 1983. And it's that mentality. So when I joined the one group, I was like, eh. But then they started posting pictures from back in the 70s, the 80s, the 90s. And I was like, okay, well, maybe this is something I can look at. And they posted a lot of these obscure groups. And so one day I was sitting around and I just popped in my head, sorry we missed your call. Basically, and Hooked on a Feeling, there's the hidden gems, which are these songs and albums that were really great, but maybe one hit wonders. Nobody knows, you've probably never heard of. And I find that when it comes to a lot of things, people are very deeply passionate about that. And so the idea of sorry we missed your call is there are plenty of people that write, for example, about Poison. Kiss has been written about 100 times. Everybody's written a book about Dusty Rhodes.
Yeah.
There's 1,000 books about Nightmare on Elm Street, for example, right? But because there's 1,000 books, those aren't interesting. But I think a lot of people like me find interesting.
Didn't mean to distract you. This is a Friday the 13th Part 2 book written by a guy who has a bunch of facts in there about the movie. I just put it up there to show that as an example.
There was what I think a lot of people find interesting is I think there's a more personal connection to that album that but not everybody knows.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times you would see somebody would post something and somebody would go, yeah, but have you heard of this group? Have you heard of this group? And they're very passionate. It's something they're now like 40, 50 years old, but it's something that's stuck with them since their childhood. And it means something to them. And now they're just as excited to go, oh my God, did anybody else listen to this record by this obscure band that came out in 1983? And so that was the idea behind Sorry We Missed Your Call, was to focus on things that maybe should have been just as noticed as other things, but didn't get the kind of love. And we never know why. We never know why Def Leppard sold several million albums.
Yeah. I was a big Def Leppard guy in the 80s too.
We never know why, but then you turn around and there's groups that came out before Def Leppard that sound like Def. We never know why Crocus didn't have an album as big as that.
Yeah.
It could have been the other way around. So that was the idea behind the series. And I decided, since I was in that group, I would start off with Glam Rock. So and you actually influenced this, because I actually went with your size book.
Okay.
A smaller read, although I think a little bit bigger than I had planned. I think yours are usually like 125 maybe. This one's closer to 2. I think next time, since it won't be quite as full, I'll be closer to your pages. So, but it was fun because I could just I could pick them out in advance. It was my opinion, and it told the story the whole way. And like most of my anal order things, everything's done in yearly order. So there's almost an album per year.
Oh, okay.
And each one takes up literally the front and back of a page.
Nice.
And then and it's separated decades. And then I did the fun part where I found so many singles, especially in the 70s, that I bookended with additional singles for every decade. And then I managed to get some interviews as well with some of the people in the book.
Well, that's pretty
So,
cool.
so that's a fun thing. And those are I couldn't get the 70s. I almost got Michael DeBar's. You remember him? He sang for Power Station as a fill-in,
Yeah.
but he's in the book is in the band Silverhead, but he was in Detective. Um, Mostly known as an actor, an English actor, and and we communicate. But when I asked him about the interview, all of a sudden that was not one he replied back to.
Oh,
So but it's cool. I got to talk to Ricky Rat from the Trash Brats out of Detroit, Adam Baum, who put out a few albums in the '80s, and actually is still he toured during like part of the pandemic, and they confiscated his bus in Germany, took his weed and sent him home, and he had to find a way to get his bus back. So so fun stuff. And then there's a few of the people mentioned. I got them to chime in on some of their obscure favorites as well.
well, that's pretty cool. Yeah, the note that I had, you have 80 underrated glam albums. So we're going to talk about 80 albums in that book. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I would say 80, and then probably about another 60 singles, for each decade. So it's I would say not only is it a fun thing, but I think it's one of those books. I don't know about you, but like when I read, like I just got in reading the Elton John autobiography. I'm currently reading the Peter Frampton. My wife always knows when been in the bathroom, which is where I read, because I will turn on the TV, and I will open up a video that's relative to what I just read. Because y'all read like so and so played this concert. I wonder if there's footage from that concert, and I'll be
Right,
on
right.
YouTube, right? So she always knows when I've been in the bathroom reading.
Well, it's amazing what you can find on YouTube. YouTube is a
Yep.
wonderful thing when you're trying to find obscure music. And uh, someone had a recorder way back in the day, and someone transferred it to digital media, and it posted on YouTube. I find all kinds of cool stuff on YouTube. Um, well, let's talk about. We're going to come back to Glam Rock, but let's talk about your art a little bit. And you mentioned earlier that you did a book cover for a certain guy. I'll show it real quick. This is the Piano Witch. I don't
Yeah.
know how well you can see it, but John did the cover for that, and we may be working on something else in the near future. I don't want to announce that too early. Um, I do have my girl Elena working on a book cover, but I'm going to try something a little different with my next book release, and that's all I'm going to say about it. But The Piano Witch was an excellent cover. I got a lot of good feedback about it. John, you did a great job on it. He sent me um, one version, and that was a winner for me. I was like, yeah, that's it, because you captured the essence of what I was looking for in the book. So appreciate that, John. You did a great job.
I was just glad to be included because you've had some rock stars, some true rock stars on your covers. So, the funny part about it is I I have an issue when I look at the book, um, because of the way that the type was done. Right. I have another friend who is a local author, and he's done pretty well. Right. Matter of fact, he just put out a new book, and he's been doing some signings recently. So I look at the book and I see Panowich.
I don't. I don't.
And I
Because
and I've
I see where you can get that, but it's distinct. There's a distinction between the white and green type. So you
yeah.
know, but yeah, I could see that. I wish you'd have never said that shit, man.
I've known Brian since he was a teenager. I mean, I once took him to sign up for middle school. He lived in our neighborhood, so he's it's always cool when you see. I call him a kid because I knew him when he was a kid and I was an adult, but it's always cool when you see somebody grow up, and he's amazing.
Yeah.
So
Well, John does a lot of. Well, I'll say a lot. I'm not into his business or anything, but I'm assuming he does a lot of commission work, and all the work he does is really good stuff. So let's talk about that a little bit and how people can contact you to commission art. And, I think what you do is amazing. I've got several artist friends that do a great job. I've gotten some, like I said earlier, I've gotten some from Francie. I got this and a book cover from John. But let's talk about your art a little bit, John. I'm going to be quiet so I stop rambling. But tell my audience about what you do.
I would say, excuse me, it's that iced coffee coming through. Well, first, let me lead up to this.
Okay.
I did art. Well, I don't call it art. If anybody knows me, I like to refer to myself as not an artist, but like that 15-year-old kid who still thinks that the stuff he does looks cool as shit, right? My wife is always like, I'm like, I'm gonna do this. She goes, who's gonna buy that? And I'm like, it's cool to me, right? I mean, just and I get it. I get it because it's not like I'm going to buy my own art, right? I mean, that'd be cool, right? If I had a fun and I could just like paint, right, and give stuff away. But when I was a kid and my dad was in Vietnam, my mom, who was Italian, didn't speak a lick of English. The two of us stayed in Mississippi with my great grandmother, and I was a handful. I was hyper, and my grandma, my great grandmother, was dealing with her daughter being kind of whacked out. My mom couldn't speak English, so what do you do with the little kid who's running around like crazy? So she would hand me paper and pencil and say, Joseph, draw that. And so I would draw like Bozo the Clown. And I got to the point where, as an only child, I would get lost in things like music, the big headphones, reading, drawing was a big thing. And drawing was always good because I was always a bit shy. I could always connect with people because if they saw me drawing, they'd go, "Oh, that was cool. Can you do that for me?" I was pretty popular when it came to yearbooks.
Oh,
So
I could see that.
yeah. But out of high school, I didn't fare very well from high school into the real world. And so it wasn't too long after that I kind of stopped creating by hand. And my dad told me, he's like, well, you're an artist, but you can't make money at it. So I went to school to be a graphic artist. So for 30 something years, 30, 40 years, whatever it is, my art consisted of uh, graphic design. And part of it was in the print industry where everything is done on layers, 4 level layers. And it was that point that I started going back in time and discovering, falling in love again with like 60s San Francisco poster art. And since I was covering a lot of local music, I did a lot of stuff like that. So oddly enough, when we were working on Hooked on a Feeling, um, I always wanted to do a book, but the problem is the photography. To get good photography, you have to get permission. You got to pay for it. And I found this book in a Goodwill, and it was like the music of 1969, and all of it was drawn. So I
Year
said,
I was
France,
born.
yeah. So I hit up Francie and I said, I said, you keep telling me to write this book. Will you draw the pictures, and I can do the book? So as long as I have your permission to use your art, I don't have
Yeah,
to
you're
deal with
good.
it, right?
Yeah.
So we did the book, and I have all this paraphernalia, you know, because it started off as a teen idol kind of thing. And so when we did the pre-order thing, like you always do giveaways and cool stuff when people pre-order. I had all this stuff, and I said for every pre-order, I will put in some kind of like
Oh, I
it'll
got
be
a
a
record. Yeah, I
45
got a
or a
45 record.
card,
Yeah.
yeah, or something. I had like autographed pictures, something, and the first person that bought it was Kathy Benedetto. And Kathy Benedetto is like, she's family. And I was like, well, God, I want to do something special. So I said, well, you know what? I'm going to draw something for Kathy for her
Nice.
thing. So I did Bob Dylan, and I did it all in blue on paper. Tangled Up in Blue. And I was like, okay, so I did that. And then while we were doing the book, Francie did a Sean Cassidy for a late birthday present that we used in the book. And I was like, well, I should do something. So I did a Mike Nesmith for Francie.
Yeah.
And I'm the kind of person that giving gifts is like, I geek out about that, right? So we went down to Petchko's to talk about an art show, and I got there early. It's raining, and I run inside and I asked, dude, can I put this on the wall? And Francie is just like, she can't even hear what he's saying. She's just looking at Dean going.
Yeah.
And so we get done talking, come out, and she's like, and I was like, what? She's like, I'm like, you should get that. She's like, oh, I can't. I was like, here, you should get it. She's like, and I'm like, happy birthday.
Nice.
Right. And then, so that turns into my wife going, will you draw Ozzy Osbourne for me? And I was like, well, I don't draw. And the next thing you know, Francie is like twisting my arm to do an art show.
Yeah.
In October that we've got she's like, you got to do like 20 pieces of art. And at this point, I haven't done art in 30 something years. And I'm like, okay, so I got pieces of paper. I've got pastel chalk. And that's when I remembered that black in a pastel chalk just is like murder. So I'm like, how can I do the black? And it's just insanity, right? The show itself was chaotic,
Yeah.
right? But I was like, okay, so I kept doing it. And when I was a kid, I hated to paint, but it was because my only avenue was watercolor. And with watercolor, if you ain't got enough water, it ain't going to do nothing. And the opposite, if you got too much water, you've got a mess.
Right.
So I was like, well, how? And my wife was painting, and she goes, here, try these acrylics, and got me a canvas. And I saw somebody that did the collage things, and I was like, oh, and I heard people say anybody can do collage, and I was like, well, I wouldn't say that, but let me see if I can do something. And so I did this Kerouac mixed collage. I kept it simple, big, couple of colors, right? And I was like, that was really cool. And since then, I have people that have originally bought my pastel art that are upset with me because they can't get additional things to go with it because I won't touch pastels now. It's all acrylic. So, but I guess you would say I started off keeping it simple, and I
Yeah.
had these square canvases and put these big faces on it, and it turned out that they were like singer songwriters. And I was like, well, Kerouac's a writer. And then I did George Carlin, and I was like, they're in a square. It's a writer's block. And I did a series, and I was working at this art gallery, and I put it up on my wall. And I was like, see, that's the weird part about me is I like this weird order of things. I like themes, stuff like that. So a lot of times if I do multiple paintings, like when I did the dinner for two, it's because I had multiple canvases. There had to be a purpose where they all fit together. So, and so I would say that it's probably pretty accurate if the people that say that I don't like the word art, but I guess if you're going to use the word art, pop art. For the most part, I've done a few things for people where I've done their dogs, their family, but most of what people like is I've probably done more. I probably have more David Bowie paintings around the world than anybody should be allowed to, just because I will hold on to one, and when it sells, all of a sudden 50 people will go, I didn't know you had that. And I'm like, well, where were you for the past 3 months when I was posting this? And then so someone will want something. And so that's pretty cool. But then outside of that, I think what I do best is around Halloween time. I do a lot of horror movie art, creatures, and for some reason, since I'm really into nostalgia, people really like it when I do like old school trick or treat kids.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much me in a nutshell.
Well,
as far as art. So I mean, I think
I got a really cool piece from you this past. Well, I don't know if I got it from you right at Christmas, but it was a Christmas present for my good friend Bryce Gibson. It was a Michael Myers, and he freaking loved it. He freaking loved it. And to your point, and I didn't mean to cut you off there, but I wanted to get that in there while you were talking about it. He does amazing Halloween themed art with the classic characters that you grew up and love or hate. And that Michael Myers, he just, you know, his eyes lit up when he opened that gift, and I was like, yeah, that's. And I said, Stoney did it, and he was like, man, that's cool shit. And I saw him hang it up on his wall. So,
oh,
uh,
nice.
yep.
And that's for me. That's the best part. Like I said, my wife's always like, when I go, I'm going to do this, and she's always like, but who's going to buy that? It's cool to do something that's typical that someone's gonna buy. Like I did Gone with the Wind, a couple of Gone with the Winds, and I put them up at a cafe here in Aiken, and they sold quickly. It's cool to do that. I'm not a fan of Gone with the Wind, but my wife suggested it. But I feel what's cool. I think I probably made several $100s on those two, and that's cool. It pays the bills. But for me, in comparison, for me to do something that's coming out of my heart and my head, not for any purpose other than that, and for me to put it up and for somebody to go, I want that, and to buy that, to me, the Gone with the Wind stuff for several $100s that I did just to make several $100s, it's far less value than the piece that I might have did that came from my head that somebody might have paid me $100 for. Because there's just something about knowing that somebody, you connected with somebody in a way that they want to put your connection and your heart and soul on their wall.
Yeah.
Not that it's not cool that this lady from out of town has got Gone with the Wind on it, because she was pretty excited, and it's always cool when somebody's excited. But when somebody buys something that you don't necessarily do to sell, and then they send you a picture of it on your wall, you almost feel like you've moved in with them. You almost feel
I
like
can
you're part of the family. So
I can feel that. You're gonna see me step up for a second. I'm gonna grab the gin picture because that one caught my eye immediately. I was on vacation and I messaged you, but I want to kind of show the audience. But you can keep talking if you want. I'll be right back. Right here.
we'll drink some coffee is what we'll do.
So I was on vacation with my wife. I think it was last year, and saw this posted on Facebook, and I was like, John must know I'm a huge gin fan, or he's seen something or whatever, but I had to have it. So I messaged him while I was there, and this is what he came up with, ladies and gentlemen. And I think it's amazing. I don't know if you can still hear me. I'm backing up from the microphone. But, he kind of talked about how he came up with the piece. It's a picture, or it's a, what do you want to call it? You want to call it a drawing, a painting?
Yeah.
It's art to me of her wearing her own T-shirt, which I thought was pretty cool. But this is the kind of stuff you can get from John. That's very unique. You won't find this anywhere else. That's for sure. And as soon as I saw it, I was like, man, I got to have that. And then my wife made a comment when she saw it, and I went and purchased it. She said, "You better not tell him you're a big Shirley Manson fan, or you're going to be spending more money." But I digress. That's the thing I have hanging on my wall that John created with his own hands. So I appreciate that.
So, and it's fun. It's fun. I just recently delivered some art, and it's always fun when you deliver art, and it's to a friend of mine, and he was actually buying. He wanted to buy art, and his wife was paying attention, and she's like, "No, I want that." So of course, guess who won?
Oh yeah, I
Right.
know.
So, and when we dropped it off, she comes over, and Mark's just trying to give me the money for it and get the paintings, and she comes over with her phone, and she's like, "Can you do this?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, I can do that." And Mark's like, okay, that's for your birthday. Well, that's cool. You come exchange goods in a parking lot like an illegal drug deal, and you leave knowing that you're going to come back and drop it off for even more money, and that's pretty neat. And but I still would say that I prefer doing something out of my own head. But when somebody wants me to do something that's not typical, that makes it interesting, especially when it's something that I'm not necessarily. Everybody knows Gone with the Wind. It's not that hard, Gone with the
Yeah.
Wind. But when somebody shows me something that I'm familiar with, but I don't really know a lot, then all of a sudden there's kind of like that challenge.
Yeah. The creative
I
juices
gotta.
get flowing. Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I got a friend, Robert Gray, who back in the day used to run Radioactive Records in downtown Augusta, and we meet for lunch quite often. And I originally did this Augusta art show, and in it, I did a picture of him in front of the Radioactive sign in nothing but greens. And of course, he saw it, he bought it, and he was like, "Will you do commissions?" I was like, and next thing I know, I'm doing, and I was like, "This is your price, Robert. This is your price." And next thing I know, we're meeting for lunch, and he's like, "This is what I want to do." He sends me the picture. He's like, I was like, "Okay, well, what color?" He's like, "No, do it your way."
Yeah.
And so I've probably done like 15 things that he has sitting against the wall in a room that he's going to be putting up. And he's like, "I'll have you come over once I finally put them up." And I'm like, "Okay." So that's been fun because he kind of gives me a little bit of freedom to do my own thing. And so I get a little really weird with backgrounds and stuff like that on the stuff that he's done. He's done um, I did cream. I did a ginger baker for him. Um, I
Nice.
did actually one where he wanted Frank Zappa and I can't remember the other guy. And he wanted them to sit there and have Captain Beefheart like they were having a conversation on a talk show.
Yeah, I saw
So
that. I saw that.
so
Yeah, you posted that before. That was pretty cool.
that's fun because while he's picking the theme and he's picking the main idea, he's leaving it up to me. And it's funny because I'll send him a thing going, "This is how it's going," and he'll go and he'll yell at me. I mean, literally, he's like, "You got to have more confidence in yourself." I mean, literally. I
Well, you
mean,
you kind of did that with me, man. I gave you bare bones of what I wanted the cover to kind of look like, and I think you shot this back to me half expecting me to say something. I don't know. I don't want to say negative or halfway expecting me to say that's not quite what I'm looking for. But your judgment's pretty good, man. Because I would have never came up with this. You know, you've got the kind of the image of the witch looking back through the piano and the little girl, and it captured the essence of what I was trying to do in the book, and with very little instruction. So you got a gift for that, my friend. So I trust. I would probably do the same thing. Here, this is what I want, and just do what you do.
yeah. Well, stuff like that's fun because it it takes the direction of somebody paying you to do something, but it gives you the flexibility of putting yourself into it. So
Yeah,
it kind of it's that way of being able to meet my side of it, which is I want to be creative, and then my wife's side of it, which is you need to like get something for your time, and she's right. You know what I mean? You see artists post that all the time about getting paid for your time and stuff, and I think a lot of it is I look at I've been doing this again for like 3 years, and I don't really like I said I'm not big on the term artist to
yeah,
begin with, and I really don't look at myself in the same vein as like Pork Chop, Billy, Francie. To me, these are all speaking. Notice I all called them by their first name. So to me, these are all people that are kind of like Madonna, which is kind of funny because people always refer to me as just Stoney, but I look at them as creators, because I can't. Pork Chop, it seems like he can just like stuff. Billy, you could just walk up to Billy at like at the thing in Jackson. I think that I've seen you at, and Billy will just be out there going, and you're just I can't do that, And then Francie's the same way. So
This is a sample of Francie's work. So she did this cool portrait of Shirley Manson screaming at the sky. And so that's why my wife warned me. She said, "Don't tell him you're a big Shirley Manson fan." But yeah, we're fortunate to have a lot of great, talented folks around here with their own gifts. You definitely have it. And I'm what you're telling me today. I'm kind of shocked at learning you've only been you've been doing it all your life, but you've only been doing it heavily and selling art and all that stuff for 3 years. Really, 3 4
yep,
years.
yep, yeah. When
That's
we did,
crazy to me.
and the funny, and like I said, the funny part about it is when I started doing it, I went out and got some paper and some pastels, and the only thing I got different because I didn't like black pastels is I got a black acrylic marker. And then I went through a phase where I was doing stuff on wood with acrylic marker, and I was like, and that probably was what led to the whole acrylic paint thing. But I'm one of those people that I'm not a thread the needle kind of person. I will lose my shit. Just go.
Yeah.
And so the whole brush thing has taken some getting used to. Never expected it to be me using a brush to do things. And I find that a lot of the way I paint has to do with that because while there are people out there that will fine line stuff, I will fine line when I have to. And then when I have to, I will cheat. And it's not cheating to be lazy. It's because I'll look at it and go, if I do this, it's not going to turn out the way it should because I'm not that person. How do I
Right.
do it my way? And then I'll do it my way, and it always turns out better. So for me, it turns out
Yeah.
better. So
Well, one thing I can say with certainty is you do have a signature. You have a style. When I could pick one of yours out of a lineup. It's very unique, and I dare say I haven't seen anything quite like it anywhere. What you do. So again, that's another testament to you. You do such a fantastic job, and I'm still kind of blown away. You've only been doing it for a few years, the way you're doing it. Now I realize
yeah,
you've been kind of doing it all your life, but not at this level or output. So kudos to you,
yeah,
man.
yeah, yeah. And like I said, a lot of it goes back to the graphic being a graphic artist for a long time, really. And my first job was actually a summer job in Germany. I was probably like 13, and it was at a printing factory. And that kind of stayed in my thing because my dad was already into computers and stuff in the military. And because of that, and going into that phase and going into where you print in layers and posters, I mean, I don't know if you could see, but I tend to print in layers. And a lot of times it'll just be simple, it'll be colors. And sometimes I will start with a complete cover on a canvas, but then usually at that point, I will start from the lightest color and work forward to whatever the darkest color is, which is a lot of times black. But lately, I've even gotten away from that because I like the classic poster thing. There's something about those posters, and I know they're pretty cheesy because you see those rock posters all the time that are supposed to be from the 60s and 70s, and
Yeah.
they're not really from the 60s and 70s,
Yeah.
and it's
Yeah.
black on a color, black on yellow. It's like just a two color thing. But you look at those, and there's just something nostalgic about it. And a lot of times, I will do stuff that will just be a darker color on a lighter color. Um, I think one of my most popular ones is this one called Transmission, and it's a nostalgic piece from the fact that the guy has a transistor radio up to his ear.
Yeah.
and the background color is a bluish, light bluish gray. The forward color is a dark blue. It's the only two colors. And I find something fun in trying to do that. I wish I knew where it was. I did one recently of Cliff Dykes. Oh, here we go. I
Ah.
did I did Cliff Dykes, and as usual, I went to put in the black and realized the black was too much, and I got rid of the black by going with the darkest shade of brown and pink that was in there, and so yeah, this was for a submission. So, so it's just fun to do that. The other one I'm doing an old 95 rock one, and I was trying to figure out whether I was going to do multiple color, and I decided that I was just go with I laid down a gray, and I'm going to put a dark blue on top of the gray. So so I kind of
Well,
like doing fun stuff like that.
you see me grabbing my phone because I was looking something up. Something else you did that put me in the mind of, and maybe it was America's Hot Summer. I saw something like that posted. Um, geez, I'm trying to remember. It was like a lady in a bikini, and
Oh,
that's what it put me in the mind of.
yeah. I did this 5 years ago. I actually did this album called American Summer, and the whole idea of the album was I wanted to do something that was very old school, feel good, somewhere between like Bob Seger and Big Star. That kind of, just makes you feel like back in the day that you're, sitting on the back of your car, with nothing but your jean shorts on, which is something I would never do now this day and age. But and so I wanted to do an art show. I did one called What I Did on My Summer Vacation because I had to do it later in the year. But then I decided to do one called American Summer, and everybody that participated there, well, what do you mean? It was like, we're American. It's summer. What is your idea of an American summer? It's what everybody's is different. Go back to your youth. And what I did with that was actually, I'm a big fan, like the old posters, the Endless Summer poster, which is the surfers, the two color posters like that. I did that the one year, and I did a skateboarder with a background. I did a golfer with but each one was a different color, but it was the multiple colors, right? And so for American Summer, I said, I got to do that one too. How do I do that? And I was like, I got to have a 70s bikini girl. And I
yeah,
was like, American Summer. I was like, well, wait a minute. It's got to be red, white, and blue. Right? It's got to be.
yep,
And so it is probably like the 30th rendition of me doing some kind of take on the 1960s Endless Summer poster. That's my favorite poster, and I've done so many variations of that one poster in different forms. A couple of matter of fact, that's one of them.
yeah.
Right there is a variation as a skateboard. So just something about that. I don't even think I was born when that came out, but there's just something about the orange and the yellows and the browns of that poster that when you look at it, you almost sweat. But then you can almost feel the breeze coming off the water, and you almost feel ready to like jump into the ocean. And
Yeah,
that was done. I was probably done
nice.
screen print.
Oh
So
yeah, yeah, yeah. Back then, for sure, man. Well, Stony, man, we're coming up on the hour, and I've completely enjoyed this conversation for sure. And I'm going to let you continue to talk because what I want you to do is promote um, the book a little more. Tell people where they can find it. I'm going to put links below, so everyone will know where they can click and go get their pre-orders in. But I'm going to be quiet for a couple minutes, and you have at it, man. Promote away.
all right. So the book is Sorry We Missed Your Call. It's the first first book in the edition. It's Glam Rock, and it's obscure glam rock albums. The website is am66, and it's spelled out.com. You can go there, pre-order. If you pre-order, each one comes with a 6x9, right, Charles? Six
That's
by
right.
nine.
6x9. 6x9.
Comes with a 6x9 art print, which kind of fits the format, but it's not the same. And each one will actually be numbered and personalized on the front. And then I will actually sign it on the back. Not that I'm anybody famous. Um, but if you go to AM66, you can actually get a copy of. You can buy one of remaining copies of Hooked on the Feeling. You can pre-order this on the 28th when the book is officially released. You'll be able to go to the site and you will actually, because I have people from other countries who are like, why can't I pre-order right now? And I'm like, only US and Canada right now. But on the 28th, it comes live, which means Amazon. And you will be able to order from anywhere in the world. And Amazon does all the hard work at that point. But if you want to have fun with the book and you just want to wait and get your own, on the release date, which is June 28th. Did I say August? June 28th.
No, June 28th.
June 28th is when this will come. Will this be official? We will be at the Book Tavern in downtown Augusta from 6 to 8 p.m. We are going to have music. We are going to be dressed up 70s, 80s glam style. We are going to, like I said, be playing a good playlist from the thing. We are going to have some fun. There'll be some Q&A. We're going to do it like 80s Headbangers Ball style.
Nice.
It's going to be fun. The book will be available. And then the next day on June 29th from 1 to 3, we'll be at Wolf House Records in Woodstock, Georgia. And that'll be a fun thing. And I think that's really all we have planned. I think we're working on Columbia right now. So I'm not sure what else there really is to say about it. But if you pre-order, you'll get the print. If you come out to the first couple events, I think I'll have a few more for you. And then I'll probably have a few other cool, fun things too. And the Book Tavern is an awesome place. So if this isn't your thing and you can't make it out for this one, they got plenty of stuff going on there. I'm pretty sure Charles does his book stuff there. So yeah, stop by there. These will end up being available after the events at the Book Tavern and Wolf House Records. I venture to say some of them will probably make their way down to Grand Ski and some other places.
Awesome. And one other thing I'd like for you to do, if you can, if any of you guys want to, if you take a look at John's art, or I'm going to call it art. Sorry. And you want something, I think he does commissions, so you can reach out to him and he'll put something awesome together for you. If I'm misstating anything there, correct
No.
me. But what's the best way someone could reach out to you if they want to commission a piece from you?
Well, you could always go through am66.com and send me a message, but you could also just email me directly, LOKAL, local with a K, loudness at yahoo.com. Or, and I'm not afraid to do this because in this day and age, I get stalked enough. If I'm going to get killed, I'm going to get killed, right? 706-619-5425. Text me a message, whatever. If you just want to send me a picture of something that you might want done, I can tell you right away whether I can do it. Just take into account, guy, girl, no matter what you are, I am married, so don't send me anything too weird. Unless it's just something weirdly cool, like from a horror movie. So,
yeah.
And I also want to add, since Charles is the ultimate horror writer from the Valley in the CSRA, the second installment of the Sorry We Missed Your Call will be Rock and Roll Horror Show. And you can tell me what that's going to be about. We're going to talk about mostly 80s, really mostly bad, but God, do we love them awful movies
That's
where
right.
some band gets possessed by the devil and just tries to take out a whole city. We love that stuff, right?
Absolutely. We'll have you back on the podcast to talk about that when it gets closer to release date. But
There you
again, John, thank you for being on. I had fun with this. You know, I am a small town horror author. Charles Campbell. My latest release is The Piano Witch, and this gentleman
For
here did the
now.
cover. We talked about it. Piano Witch. But I have a new book coming out. It'll be out
Yep.
later this summer. It'll probably be out late July, early August. It's called Signature: A Cut Above. The final edits of the book have been done. Now I'm just waiting cover art. And one of my best friends in the whole world, Elena Morales, she's an incredible makeup designer, special effects makeup designer. She will be providing the main cover art for the book, and I'm so excited to see what that looks like. We may have a surprise around the cover arena that I'm not going to come and blurt out right at the moment, but I am looking forward to Elena's interpretation of this crazy beautician. You can find me at valleyboypublications.com. Most of my links are there. We do have a Horror 421, the podcast Facebook page, also host a horror podcast, and a Backstage 421, the musicians only podcast Facebook page. Until next time, you guys have a great week, a great night, a great whatever, and we'll catch you next time on Backstage 421, the musicians only podcast. Take care. Bye, John.
Bye.
We hope you enjoyed this week's episode of Backstage 421, the musicians only podcast. Be sure to tune in for the next episode. Please like and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Listener support links can be found below. Thank you for your support.